Because small ball is not big ball. It's not something that is gonna make you more money. It's not something that's gonna move your business forward. And so what I wanna talk to you today is just, over the last 5-6 years, things that I've learned, and as I reflect back on, the things that I'm spending time on that I really don't need to be spending time on. And so I've come up with these different systems in my life, and I wanna talk to you about what those systems are and how you, as a real estate investor who already owns properties, can set yourself up for success, buy your time back so that you're not spending your time on small balls. What's going on, real estate investors? My name's Hayden Crabtree, and if you are like me, a real estate investor that already has some properties, the reason you got into real estate investing is for freedom, is for wealth, is to reduce your taxes. But the main reason I hear of why people get into real estate is freedom. And the biggest problem that I found is that most people get into real estate investments, and whenever we think we're acquiring an asset, something that's gonna pay us and be stress-free and provide cash flow in our life, it is an asset financially, but is a liability on our time. You're spending more time than you're supposed to. You're reducing the value of your time because you're spending your time on, well, what I'll call is maintenance tasks. Tasks that you don't need to be doing, tasks that don't move the ball down the field, right? I call this, and I've called this with my partners, small ball. It's not something that is gonna make you more money. It's not something that's gonna move your business forward. So the first question is, how much is your time worth? You might say, hey, my time's worth $100 an hour. You might say my time's worth $200 an hour. I know people who say their time is worth $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 an hour. It all depends on how much you value your time at. But whatever it is, you need to put a number on it, and you need to look at, what am I doing that is costing me this time, and then put that in a real dollar amount so you can understand that, hey, each hour I spend on something I shouldn't be, that costs me actual money. And so I've got a list here. So don't think I'm ignoring you here. Here are 3 tips that I've recognized that I have spent more time on than I really need to inside of my lifetime, that is essentially, just for a better term, just wasted on things that they shouldn't have been wasted on. Okay, these tasks should really be handled by an assistant, but a lot of real estate investors don't have assistants. They don't want assistants. We don't want to have to manage a person in our lives. And these are tasks, things like getting a loan, right? Renewing insurance, paying your property tax bills, organizing your documents and communicating to your accountant for tax time, finding old documents for a property, whether you're selling a property and you're trying to find your old title work, your old survey, you're trying to find an old appraisal for a loan. And so the thing is that all of these tasks have to be done, right? Whenever it's time to do these tasks, they have to be done, but you don't have somebody to do them. And so you revert back to doing them yourself. If you look inside of what you do, those are not activities that help you create more wealth. And so here are 3 tips that I've implemented into my business that I think you should implement into your business that have helped me reduce the amount of time that I spend on these level of tasks by really up to 90%, okay? The first thing that you should do is you should always know where your important documents are. Things like settlement statements, appraisals, surveys, environmental reports, leases with your tenants, partnership agreements, operating agreements, old tax returns. There are just a plethora of important documents whenever it comes to being a real estate investor. And if you're like me, or like what I used to be, is I had 2 computers, and I'd have some on this computer, I'd have others on this computer, some would be inside of my email, and I'm a person, like, I hate to admit this, I have 9 email addresses. It's absolutely ridiculous, but I would literally have to go through and say, oh, is it in this email inbox? Is it in this email inbox? Is it in this email inbox? And whenever you're going through and you're trying to find documents from 2 years ago, for a simple document that I should have pegged, I would spend an hour looking for this document, and that really some task that should take me 30 seconds would end up taking me, an hour and costing me $200 if that's what I value my time at. As a real estate investor, it's very easy to buy a property, not do anything with the documents, and then need those documents in 1, 2, 3, 5 years. And the thing is like, the further away you get from the time you purchase that property, the harder it is to find those documents, because that's just the way it is. So number 1 tip that I have for you for spending less time buying your time back is to always know where your important documents are. Now I want to show you the system that I've created that you can also implement, and I'll share my computer screen here with you of how you can make sure you always know where they are. So let's dive in real quick. So The system here is my property stats, and if I come inside of a property here, this is one of the properties I have, is that everything that is important that I need is right here in one central place, because my property stats, my software is pretty much set up for real estate investors who want to spend less time, who want to have more information on their data. And so one of the big benefits is here what we'll call the property card, and the property card keeps all of your important information from parcel numbers to links to the appraiser website, to your articles of incorporation, your partnership agreements, your closing documents, your settlement statements, your appraisals. Everything is located right here in one central place. And what that allows us to do is that anytime we need an important document, we need to it's just like, boom, here it is. I know exactly where it is. I log in. My property stats is cloud-based, so you never have to, wait on a computer. You can access it from any computer. It's safe, it's secure, it's right here in one central place. And so if you're not going to use my property stats, totally cool. I think you should, but if you don't, just create and organize a Google Drive or a Dropbox or something of that nature built in the cloud so you always have access to your documents. The number 2 thing that I would say that you always need to do is never get behind on your financials. And so again, I'll show you right here inside of my property stats. At the click of a button, we can come and we can go to our monthly financials, and it will store your profit and loss statements, and also keeps track of your loan balances, how much you're supposed to be making, how much you actually are making, and it'll keep track of all of that through the years right here in one central place. Now, one of the things that can cost you a lot of time is that if you're trying to do your financials retroactively, and what I mean by that is, like, you've probably been in this situation. Hey, I'm good about doing my financials. I'm good about doing my financials. Life happens to me. Life happens to me. Life happens to me. And then all of a sudden I'm 6 months down the road. I haven't done my financials. And instead of the, 10 to 15 minutes it should take you every single week in order to actually do those, it now takes you, instead of 10 to 15 minutes, times 5 months you miss, takes you 5 hours, because you're trying to make sense and you have to spend so much mental energy and do so much backtracking to try and figure out, what was this expense for? How do I peg that? And so another tip that I have is just never get behind on your financials. And my property stats makes that really easy to do, because it's got one centralized place, and also it's going to give you reminders if you don't do your financials. Hey, do your financials, do your financials. And so it's just forcing you to have those best practices. And then whenever you ever need anything, when it comes to tax time, everything is right here at your central fingertips, all in one place. And then number 3 tip that I have for you is write down your critical dates. So what are critical dates? When you're buying properties, things like the binding date, when you sign the contract, when your due diligence is up, when your financing contingency expires, when your title objections are due, the closing date for property. Those are your critical dates for properties you're buying. And then if you already own properties, critical dates are things like, when is my loan balloon due? When is my property taxes due? When is my insurance due? Things that are critical that your property manager isn't going to handle for you, right? Your property manager may or may not pay your property taxes for you. It's probably on you or your accountant. But really the point is that have one central calendar for your entire real estate business where everything, all critical dates are outlaid on. And again, my property stats was designed that way. The cool thing about this is not only can you have your existing properties, but you can also have your pipeline of new properties you're buying. And inside of the calendar function, it'll keep track of every single thing that is important for you to know about. Like for instance, here we had a financing contingency timeline, a closing day for a property coming up. And to have those listed in one central place is really going to save you a lot of brain space. Again, quit focusing on the small ball. You should not have to be thinking about and keeping track of when a property tax bill's due, when your insurance is up for renewal. Your brain needs to be open to think about new deals, new strategies, bigger things that are going to, or nothing at all, right? As some real estate investors want. I don't want to think about anything. I want freedom, and that's what it's all about. So this is what was causing me a lot of stress. It was costing me a lot of time. It was preventing me from focusing on bigger and bigger things, and that's why we archetyped this solution, My Property Stats, specifically for real estate investors to keep track of all those critical dates, always be keeping up with your finances, and also know always at any given time where all your important documents are. And if you want to see My Property Stats in action and what it would look like for your portfolio, happy to get on a demo with you. Me or someone on my team will get on a demo. We'll answer any questions you have. I can make sure I put the demo link here around this. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you found it helpful. If you're not going to use My Property Stats, that's cool. Come up with your own systems. Don't let these things slow you down. I'll see you in the next video. Be great.